Reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out. Seek salvation, seek salvation from God above. Seek salvation, seek it from His unfailing blessing love. Seek salvation, seek salvation. Good evening, all my people, all my brothers and sisters in righteousness. God is good all the time, as we would say. God is good all the time. Keep your faith and stand strong. I want to tell you something about what people continue to be concerned about. Scientists always continue to be concerned about what had went on long ago on the planet Mars, a planet that was so close to the Earth. When during a struggle in a time when there was the collagens and Galveston on the moon, what I call a hydrogen, the collagens and Galveston, that huge black and gray, that huge black and gray one, and his brother Galveston, which was blue, which was huge blue one. They were both on the moon at that time. And at the time when Mars did have a great civilization, there was two figures on Mars, and it was called, one was called Placlora, who is a jackal-like entity that walked with two legs, standing up like man. And the other one was E'klonia, who were a lion-like entity and stood up like a man. They were both humanoid creatures, but they just looked different from mankind. And as you will see how the ancient Egyptians dressed with the like the same way that Placlora and E'klonia's dressed. And they were both warriors, but Placlora carried something like a sickle in his hand, which he fought with. And E'klonius, the lion-like man, he fought with a sword. But there was always conflict amongst them. When one of them would gain, such as E'klonius, if he would build a nicer fence and got more wealth, then Placlora would become jealous. It was always jealousy and hatred towards his own neighbor, his brother. They would build wooden buildings, castles, and they would build large fences around. And sometimes one would cross with one another in the night, and there would be conflict after conflict after conflict. There was also a monkey-like entity on the planet. He was a humanoid as well, and he walked just like man. And he was called Couscous. And there were another one, which was a snake-like entity, like a man. He was called the walking serpent. This is what Placlora would always praise. He would always praise the serpent god. Although Placlora was a jackal, he would praise a serpent god. They would have mounts, which serpents would come out of the mount, like a mount, like altar. And a huge serpent head would come out, and they would praise it. They would speak with the serpent because it spoke just like a known person. And the language that they spoke was Aramaic. This was a known language to them, to all the living on Mars was Aramaic. Mars was not called Mars back then. It was the planet Suetu, the Saranu planet. in which Owana Tupas, who was also called Omatawa, came to visit a lot. This is where we get the triangular shaped pyramids from, was Tupas, because Tupas believed in praising things that were smaller than him. And he would say, "How do you know all this stuff?" Because God the Father told me all this. And because I exactly was and am sincerely an angel of the light in the flesh. And things that I can see, no other can see. I don't believe that they can. If they can, they must be angels too, unless of course they're Satan and the false prophet or whatever. But they don't see as I see because they're rejected from above. But I'm not rejected. Understand, moreover, I'll tell you, Placlora and E'klonia constantly warred and constantly warred. And Tupas, the little preacher, they called him, or One Eye, had came and was building his pyramids up on Mars, just as, a minister would build his church. And he would preach to them this type of gospel about Yahweh, because he did believe in Yahweh, the God of all gods. And when Tupas, the One Eye, did so, he became so much involved that he saw the conflict, the bitter conflict, and he wanted to stop the bitter conflict on Mars, because there was also forest fires, great forest fires. One would set another one's home on fire, his temple. It was always conflict after conflicts. He wanted to stop the conflict. So what he would do is he would go and try to preach to them and teach to them. And after some time, he saw that the conflict was never going to end between these two, between E'klonia and Placlora. So what he did is he gave them crafts, built them ships, and took them to different planets. When he would give Placlora a ship, a craft, he would give E'klonia a craft, a ship, a large ship to leave the planet. And when E'klonia left, he took Herpippus with him, one of Placlora. But Herpippus wasn't a bad entity. He wasn't as bad. Herpippus was a crossbreed between E'klonia and Placlora. And when Tupas had took Placlora with him, he took the great poet of Placlora, who was named Anubis. Anubis was not, understand, he was not really the type of poet that would bring good fortune to anybody, because his poetry was terrifying. His poetry caused war between Omatawa, between Tupas, the nations of Tupas. Because just as you would have rap artists on the earth, his poetry was violent poetry. And some of the brothers did not like it, which some of the brothers liked it. You had two factions worshiping different types of gods. One worshiped that poetry, and the other worshiped Yahweh. And the ones that worshiped that poetry became a lot more stronger. Listen to Anubis, because they began to worship Anubis. When they did worship Anubis, they became stronger. They became stronger in numbers. The more and more people joined, the more and more of them that joined Anubis, the stronger they became. And with Placlora of Anubis helping those factions, those brothers of Tupas, fight against those other who served Yahweh, They fought and fought and fought and fought. And they came all the way to the earth in the battle. Some of them crashed on the planet Mars, which destroyed the entire planet and knocked it off balance, creating a gigantic crater. Because this ship was so large, it nearly destroyed the planet. It wiped out all vegetarian, all life, everything that was on the planet. Anything that had survived that was destroyed because of that ship crashing. Then the rest of them came onto the earth, those that escaped. And when they came to the earth, they crossbreeded with man, those of humanity that was here, those that they could be. And they built pyramids. Wherever there is a pyramid on the earth, there was two paths. There are two paths lived. Oh, One Eye, the little preacher. He's not so small when he stood over 10 feet to 12 feet tall. But that's